Hi everybody, welcome back to another episode of Cassie Creates. I'm so happy that you decided to join me today. We are about to make something super fun. A great way to add pizzazz to your cards and embellishments, Watercolor Emboss Resist. This is a great technique because it uses supplies that you very likely already have in your stash, in your craft room, things that you likely use a lot if you're a card maker like me. So here I am getting out a glass jar. Now I prefer to use glass. I do have palettes I could use for this, but they're plastic. And I am still waiting on a glass craft mat. So I had this jar, vase, whatever you want to call it. So I decided to use it for today's technique. And I'm using a water brush. This is nothing fancy, it's just a water brush pen. This is the Recollections white embossing powder, white detail embossing powder in snow, and I have my anti-static powder tool right there. You see me using this here in just a moment on a piece of textured watercolor paper. And now you see I've sped through this a little more so it's easier to look at. I'm using the Hampton Art Happy Floral Layering Clear Stamp Set. I like this set a lot. It's inexpensive and it has some good sentiments on it. It says sending happy thoughts, thanks friend, missing you. And it has some floral pieces in it. It has the 2 flower heads, flower stem, and each flower has, I believe, one flower has 3 parts and the other flower has 2 layers, an outline and an inner. So you can really get a lot of great detail. You see me using my MISTI here. I'm just putting those the way that I want them to go on my MISTI and using my VersaMark ink to put it onto the paper. Now you may not be able to tell, but you can really look in the light with your VersaMark ink and see if it's shiny where you want your embossing powder to go. And if it's right where you want it, then you're in business. Now I'm going to use a folded piece of cardstock to catch my excess. I'm using this Recollections brand fine detail or detail embossing powder in snow. I like this embossing powder. It's not necessarily thick, but it's a good consistency, wiping away the excess. And of course, because I used my anti-static powder tool, it did not stick unnecessarily. So I skipped over me waiting for my heat gun to warm up and to use it. And you just saw there that the powder melted nicely on the paper and looks really pretty. Now you see I have got this Memento ink chart. I actually got this from Ellen Hutson's website. I believe it's still available. This is July 2021. And I have a numbering system that I created for myself. So you can see I've labeled all the backs of my Memento ink dewdrops, and I have swatched all of the colors. So you see there that Morocco is number 9 because it's number 9 on my chart. And I just printed these off with my Cricut. I cut them out and stuck them on, swatched them of course and stuck them on. They're just plain sticker paper. And this way I can store them upside down. These are just the original trays. And I can very quickly find what numbers of ink that I want and pull them out of their original trays. So I like this system. You definitely don't have to use it. But I could also post the link to the Cricut project if anybody is interested in that. I just made it myself. So you're more than welcome to have it especially if you use this Memento ink dewdrops chart from Ellen Hudson. It's really useful. Now I'm just putting some of my dewdrop ink down on my glass surface and I'm getting some water out with my water brush. And notice that I'm just going in with my light color first. Just kind of like Copic coloring if you're an alcohol marker colorer, Copic colorer. It's really similar, I have found. I am not a great alcohol marker colorer. I wish I were, but I don't practice enough. Practice makes permanent, and I certainly have only practiced with, very simple type practicing, so I get really simple results. But I love watercoloring because I feel I have a greater deal of control over it. Now, not everybody may feel that way, but I personally feel more comfortable with it. My mom is an artist and an art teacher, and I have used a lot of different paints through the years, watercolor included, so I'm more comfortable with watercolor because it is more familiar to me. Now you see me, I needed more ink, so I wiped off and with my wet cloth and my dry cloth to make it dry again, so I didn't get excess water on my Dew Drop pad, and put more Angel Pink down. That's number 2 on my system. There you can see it. I left the chart out. I didn't realize I did that. So here I am filling in the lines, and what's great is emboss resist, so that means that the water, the ink is obviously resisting the embossing powder that's already been melted on. So you can just wipe it. I have a damp cloth right here. You can just wipe it with a dry cloth too. Notice here how I am not smashing, I'm not smashing the tip in to my wet cloth. I'm going with the point, and that's definitely on purpose because we want to make sure that we don't smash the bristles down. I like to keep it as pointed as possible. Now I'm going in with the number 3 Rosebud color. You see me dabbing it off with my dry cloth there, taking off a little bit of the color, so I didn't like how bold that originally put down. Putting a little bit more water down, kind of a lot of it. You saw me tap off a little bit of the excess as well on a piece of the paper I wasn't going to be using. So I wasn't quite sure how I was going to do shading or if I was just going to go from the center, so I started with the center and put down some color and was able to mush it around quite a bit and blend it in because, again, this is watercolor paper. It's made for this. So it takes the color supremely well and blends it just beautifully, almost automatically for you, which is probably why I like doing this technique better than I do with my alcohol markers, personally. Now here I am just adding in some details, shadow details. You can really be as creative as you want here. I'm doing a very subtle coloring technique, very subtle. I mean, as you can see, it just looks like shadows. It really doesn't even look like I have a variegated type petals or anything like that. It's just simple shadows behind my Angel Pink petals. And every now and again, you just saw I did it there a moment ago, is I take my dry cloth and just kind of dab it off. You probably don't necessarily have to even do that, but I'm a worrywart and I don't want any of the ink to stain my embossing, but I mean that's the point of emboss resist, I guess. But I'm a worrywart, so I clean it off. And plus, honestly, if you clean it off as you go, it's easier to see what you're doing because you make sure that you can still see the outline of what you're doing very clearly. And I'm still using just this rosebud color, but if you can see, I know it's not zoomed in very much, but if you can tell, I'm getting quite a bit of beautiful blending and a little bit of these in between midtones where the watercoloring is blending the Angel Pink and the Rosebud colors together and making this beautiful mid-tone shade, and it just looks so natural and beautiful, even up close. I really love that. It looks natural and beautiful, especially up close because you've used the watercolor. Notice I'm still coloring with my brush. I'm going with the tip of my brush. I'm not smushing it, down into the paper. I'm picking up the color with the bristles, not against the bristles. You want to color with the bristles. You want to keep your products as long as you can in their original form, and brand new, this is pardon my head gets in the way. I promise I did shower. It's just my hair is out of control with a toddler. As you can tell here, we're getting close to being finished, and I'm just picking up the color with the direction of the bristles and coloring with the direction of the bristles. Now I pointed this Summery Sky color out, number 22. Whew, get rid of that chart finally. It was a little distracting. I kept reading it instead of talking. I've cleaned off my glass there, and I thought, you know what? If I was just making this a card base, I totally would have added a background and colored in all kinds of stuff. But I thought I want to fussy cut this because I want to use it for an element later on a card. So I am taking a little bit of that Summery Sky color, very, very light baby blue, and coloring in around the edges of my flower. Just super simple. Just go right around it. You know, don't worry too much about it. And again, cleaning off my brush carefully, making sure that I have the color off. And I froze the frame here so you could see the blue that I added. Super, super light. And off camera, I fussy cut this, and it's just, I think, beautiful. Easy to do. It didn't take very long. This is a great one. Here, I'll freeze frame it so you can see it up close. This is a great one to do, especially if you don't have a ton of time and you just want to have some crafting time. Just sit down and do some emboss resist with watercolor. Easy peasy. Well, thanks, guys and gals. I'm so thrilled that you were here today. It makes me so excited to know that there are people who watch these videos and hopefully take some inspiration from them. I hope to make some more pretty soon. Have a fantastic rest of your day and rest of your week. Sending lots of love. Bye-bye.